was a very chaotic scene. The officers from across the city came to assist. We had the Pennsylvania State Police and other outside jurisdictions to help from the complexity of the size of the multiple crime scenes, the crowd, and trying to get help to the people that needed it. And the medics arrived and were able to help transport victims, and they were self-transported, and our officers as well, trying to get victims the help that they needed at the hospital. We had calls that came in for victims at various hospitals outside the city of Pittsburgh as well. And sadly, we had two victims from gunshot wounds die, both under the age of 18. And we had an additional 8 that suffered gunshot wounds that are being treated for their injuries. And then we had additional 5 victims who were injured due to whether jumping from windows, falling down steps, or just trying to seek cover and get out of the area, and were injured. And then we had a couple more victims, one from their car being shot up, and another one from a non-injury related incident. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, here we are at Easter, and we have multiple families, 2 that won't see a loved one, others that are going to be, how can you even have a holiday when your child was involved in something traumatic like this, and all the others who were at the incident. This is traumatizing to our officers who didn't heed when a call came in for multiple shots fired. And I'm talking the shot spotters came in for over 90 rounds. And we know there was a lot more than that between inside the structure and outside that. But those officers didn't heed a second. They went in and tried to help people and get people the care that they needed, and try to really connect the multiple crime scenes that were located throughout that area. So I can't say enough about the officers for what they did. But now we got to focus on getting those who were involved with this shooting. Now, I believe, based on the evidence so far, this is still preliminary, that there was multiple shooters. Well, I mean, it's something you wish never happens, because all of us think of the families, and you think of it being on Easter, and losing a loved one is difficult, and that plays on the officers. And 2, as I said before, we had multiple shot spotters that's coming in for over 90 rounds. Okay, that speaks a lot to those officers who were going into that incident, not knowing if there's still an active shooter, and not knowing who's who. There's a lot of people running around. There's people jumping into cars. There's people pulling out in cars. I mean, it's a very chaotic situation, but I can't speak, enough for what the officers, our officers, and those that assisted us in trying to regain control of that scene and getting the people the help they needed and getting them to the hospitals and helping those that were on scene. We really got to figure out where these guns are coming from, especially for the youth. Where are they getting these guns? And we partnered with them, and we'll be having a press conference later this week about it with the ATF. But focusing on when a juvenile is found with a gun, immediately tracing it to find out where it's coming from, to go back. The trauma that these ones who were there are probably going through, you need to deal with that. But knowing where your kids are going, I mean, one of the victims was as young as 14. So knowing where they're going, knowing what they're doing, and sadly there's a lot that carry guns to use them, and that's where we got to get them off the street for doing that. And then we also know that there's guns that others are carrying simply because they're fearful because somebody else is carrying a gun. But a lot of these juveniles, their friends, and I would say even some of their family members, know they have guns. and they have a responsibility to help as well and get those guns out of their hands. So that's one of the things I would say.
Anything